Minister, though, with all due respect, what happens if it doesn't? Why do you have faith that they will be able to do what they have never been able to do?
Every day in Canada is crazy. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we got Mark Carney speaking at the UN. He completely makes a fool of himself. He absolutely humiliates himself. We already got some unexpected backlash coming from the recognition of Palestine. We also have David Eby, who continues to block any sort of pipelines going to the West Coast. He will not lift the tanker ban. Let's jump into this. Starting this one off, we got Larry Brock here posting the results of the Conservatives' bill here to bring in 3 strikes you're out rule. After 3 strikes, after 3 offenses, automatic 10-year jail sentence. And as you can see, the Bloc, the NDP, the Greens, and the Liberals voted against this because they like crime in Canada. Got Jimmy Kimmel. Looks like he's back on the air starting Tuesday. The left can stop having a meltdown. His first guest back will be California Mayor Gavin Newsom. Moving over to the UN, Palestine, this whole situation, Brian Lilly posting this. To celebrate Rosh Hashanah, Mark Carney rewarded the terror lord group that attacked Israel on October 7th, ending 1,200 people, including 8 Canadians, and took about 250 people hostage. So Mark Carney, the Liberals, they've been posting this kind of stuff all day. Tonight, Jewish Canadians will come together with loved ones, blah, 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 blah. Trying to just sweep the whole situation, what happened yesterday, under the rug, recognizing Palestine. We've got this buffoon, David Eby, also posting this. And this is hilarious. David Eby got blasted on his last post. It wasn't this one, it was another one. And now only accounts that David Eby mentions can reply. Moving ahead, we've got Jenny Kwan of the NDP, wants to bring in more people from Gaza. Trudeau promised 5,000. They've only brought in 811 so far. She's mad about that. More of a reason for the NDP to never hold power in Canada. We got this, which is hilarious. Breaking: Palestine seeks £2 trillion in reparations from the UK after they recognize them as a state. In Canadian dollars, that's $3.7 trillion that Palestine wants from the UK now. That's funny. Got this one here. The world has changed. Canada looks to deepen ties with Europe amid tariff concerns. Mark Carney pushing us closer together, rolling out his plan here. But don't worry, all of his investments, 91% of them, they're in America. They're safe and secure. They're going to continue to grow, but he's going to connect us more with Europe. Here he is saying maybe we'll be putting Canadian boots on the ground in Gaza. Not to mention Ukraine as well. He mentioned that. Problem is there isn't enough boots to go around. All of our boots are currently over in Latvia.
The disarmament and elimination of Hamas as a force, certainly as a political force, military force first and political force, is one of the conditions for a sustained cessation of hostilities and peace.
Yet you recognize them before they lay down their arms. That's not how you negotiate, Carney.
And when you say who is going to do that, there are many proposals, as I suspect you're aware, from a variety of Arab states, combination of Arab states and European states, to which Canada would be party if they were to come to pass, for multinational forces to be deployed in Palestine to enforce a peace and to drive that process forward.
Would Carney send his kids to the front lines in Gaza? We all know the answer is no. But don't worry, he wants to send your sons and daughters to Gaza. We have to call up American jets to protect our airspace from possible pow-pow threats. We can't even field our own jets. Yeah, my son wanted to join the CAF. They told him he would need to wait 18 months to get to basic training. My twin sons signed up for the reserves last May. They haven't heard a single thing back. They probably weren't woke enough. Now moving over to the UN here, he's at the General Assembly. He makes an absolute fool of himself. But before we get to that, just listen to this one sentence right here.
Building its future in peace and security alongside the State of Israel. Over many decades, Canada's commitment to this goal was premised on the expectation that this outcome would be eventually achieved as part of a negotiated settlement. Regrettably, this possibility has been steadily and gravely eroded, including by the pervasive threat of Hamas terrorism to Israel and its people, culminating in the heinous attack of October 7th. The accelerated building of settlements across the West Bank and East Jerusalem, and the soaring settler violence against Palestinians.
Settler V-word against Palestinians. Give me a break. Look in the streets, man. Palestinians are the ones attacking Canadians. This guy's got some nerve going up there and spewing that crap.
Of the current Israeli government that there will be, and I quote, no Palestinian state. In this context, Canada recognizes the state of Palestine
Look at this.
This is embarrassing. No one else is standing. Come on, Anand.
And we offer our full partnership in building the promise of a peaceful future for both the state of Palestine and the state of Israel.
There's no peaceful future coming from this lair, this dungeon. Let's jump over to CTV, Vasi Capellos, going full bulldog on Anita Anand. This is pretty embarrassing stuff here.
This step-by-step approach is extremely important. International diplomacy is complicated, and we are making sure that we are following the step-by-step approach that is needed in order to ensure that peace in the Middle East will be achieved.
Minister, though, with all due respect, what happens if it doesn't? And when you reference, for example, the Palestinian Authority, why do you have faith that they will be able to do what they have never been able to do? That they, at this moment in time, have no governing authority over, or inside rather, Gaza. They have not held elections since 2006. They have not in any way been able to eradicate Hamas. Like, what if this doesn't lead to peace? What are you going to do then? What are you going to tell all the Jewish people in this country who say this is essentially a vote for terrorism?
Well, to be clear, this is not a vote for terrorism. Hamas can...
Yes, it is. That's exactly what it is. She doesn't know what to say to this. She just got schooled. She just got schooled bad. And yes, the Chips and Hummus crowd, they had an election back in 2006. They won that. Palestinians voted for them. And since then, Chips and Hummus have refused to give up power. And what have they done since? They steal all of the aid. 90% of all the aid comes in. They steal it. They keep the food for themselves. They steal all the food from the people. They're stealing water pipes out of the ground and turning them into pow-pows. And they launch them from hospitals and schools where they use younglings as human shields so Israel can't retaliate. Just yesterday, there was a video of Chips and Hummus ending 3 more hostages. I don't recommend watching it. It's on X. They kicked them to the ground. They're blindfolded. They're tied up. They knock them down onto their sides, and then they pow, 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 and just obliterate them. Are these Canadian values, Mark Carney? They just rewarded terror lords.
Have no role in the future governance of Palestine. Hamas is a terrorist entity under the governing law in Canada. Hamas must
and they're running Gaza. Who do you think you rewarded?
lay down its weapons, and Palestine must be demilitarized. In addition, the Palestinian Authority, which is a body that is committing to democratic reforms, will continue to be supported by the international community, including by Canada.
So she goes on to word salad here. She's got no answer to this. But someone who does have an answer are Chips and Hummus themselves. Here's another example of them welcoming recognition of Palestinian state by Britain, Canada, and Australia. So breaking news today, also France and Portugal have both recognized Palestine as well. Are we surprised? No, because these are more woke nations with leaders who have absolutely no idea what they're doing. Actually, I take that back. They know exactly what they are doing. They have a nefarious plan that they're all unveiling here. Moving ahead, we got this. Terror lord group Hamas publicly ends 3 men in Gaza. So this is the video I was talking about. It's awful. Are these Canadian values? Carney? Moving back over to the UN General Assembly, Mark Carney embarrasses himself. He doesn't understand how to use this system. It's just like he doesn't understand Parliament. He doesn't understand technology. Clearly, he has a clock, and his clock tells him how long he can talk for, and he just goes over the limit. They cut his mic. This is embarrassing.
And it is fundamentally consistent with the policy of the Canadian government for generations. We take this action as part of a coordinated effort led by France and Saudi Arabia, a coordinated effort to provide the possibility of peace and a 2-state solution. Recognizing the state of Palestine, led by the Palestinian Authority, empowers those who seek peaceful coexistence and the end of Hamas.
Look at this Bond villain lair. Come on, like, who designed this set? This looks ridiculous.
It doesn't legitimize terrorism, and in no way does it compromise Canada's steadfast support for the state of Israel, its people, and their security, because that security can only be ultimately guaranteed through the achievement of a comprehensive 2-state solution. And with those in this room, with our international...
He's still speaking here. Look, he's still speaking. He's giving a speech to no one. He's still going. 30 seconds later, he's still going. Look, she's coming over to tell him. She's like, Carney, nobody hears you, including everyone in the crowd. Let's jump over to this other clip. I'm not sure where this one's from. There's someone announces his mic gets cut.
Program.
with our international.
The microphone is being cut off.
Carney, man, there's a clock here somewhere that showed he had a 5-minute timer and he couldn't go over it. Moving ahead, we've got this. Israel just announced that they formally recognized Great Britain as a Palestinian state. That's a joke. West Palestine. Moving ahead, this situation has taken a turn for the worse here. The Ostrich call in Edgewood, British Columbia. These authoritarian thugs, the government sent numerous, as it says here, 30 RCMP police officers to intimidate these people here. And I'm just pointing out this first, as this guy said, 5-year-old boy's been missing for days and the RCMP sending 30 officers to end ostriches rather than look for this kid. That's what we're seeing here. A bunch of authoritarian thugs.
Nations. This is absolutely insane. This is tyranny. This is overreach. This is tyrannical behavior on families and terrorism.
So if you haven't followed this story, basically there's these ostriches, they got bird flu, they should have died, but they didn't. They got pack immunity, they created antibodies, and now these ostriches are very valuable because these antibodies could provide cures to certain situations, and this could provide natural cures to things that the big pharma industry doesn't want. So of course, now the birds need to be culled because the profits can't be affected. So Mark Carney has sent his goons here to act like the executioner to eliminate this family farm's business and all of their ostriches. And there's a lot of weird stuff going on. Look at this. Somebody showed up. Looks like they tried to burn down the entire place, the entire farm.
There's a man running out of her house with a jerry can.
What?
Out of her house.
Wearing all black.
And a mask.
So this guy's not. He's wearing a mask. He just.
He walks back towards her house. Just 5 minutes ago.
Oh my gosh. Did you guys move the jerry can?
Well, no, he went back to the jerry can and runs around the property. We don't see him, but he didn't come to.
We've got random terror lords running around. The police are acting like terror lords themselves. We've got police flying their drones over the birds, scaring the daylights out of them to the point where they're busting through the fence. By the way, that's against the law. You can't get that close to wildlife with the drone. It is against the law. So does that mean essentially drone laws do not exist in Canada anymore?
So low. Go away. The police drones are flying so low. They're putting our birds through fences. You want to talk humane? Here's our girl. She just went through a fence, got stuck. Don't know if she can get up. They're causing these animals to kill themselves. They're going through fences. They're hitting fence posts because
this is animal abuse. Like, this is some serious draconian fascist, to pick a word, situation. Where did they get the idea for their current code of conduct? Did they pull out the old handbook from WW2? We got Dre Humphrey here saying that they cut off the power in the middle of the night to the farm. They cut the power. No point having a business in Canada. The authoritarian government will come and wipe your business off the map, cut the power from your house, because what you're doing here might affect the profits of their buddies. My dad's family survived one of these back in Yugoslavia when my grandfather was tipped off by a friend in the government, except they were coming for them, not the ostriches. And now we know why there's a pew pew buyback program. So this has been going on and on and on. We do have a bit of good news here. So apparently Sunbelt Equipment Rental, who has the scissor lift that they were going to use to get up high and then pew pew all the birds, they don't want to be a part of this. They just told the cops to buzz off, basically. Same thing with Clearway Car and Truck Rentals. CEO of this company also told the cops to buzz off. They don't want to have anything to do with this. They don't want their vehicles a part of this. The CEO said he would come out himself and remove the vehicles they don't want to be associated with this. So hats off to these companies. Give these guys a big 5-star review on Google, both of them.
Did you hear that? So Sunbelt was commissioned to bring in the big scissor lifts so that the army could come in and shoot the things. Sunbelt said no. They took their home. They took their left and right. And all that's going to be left is you guys standing.
So you hear that? Sunbelt essentially, I think he was talking about, gave up a $400,000 contract to not be associated with this dictatorship cull of these birds. Hats off to that company.
Everybody's going to lose contracts.
And you wouldn't do it. You didn't have the ball.
This is unbelievable. We don't live in a democracy anymore. We now live in a dictatorship. Has anyone noticed that all these CFIA officials and RCMP have walked right up to the fence without hazmat suits? Yeah, because the birds aren't dangerous. If they were dangerous, they're really scared, then they would have a full hazmat suit. This is all a big scam. Big Pharma wants these birds gone. Mark Carney sent his goons out here to do their bidding. Time for the ostriches to hit the underground Ostrich Road while the coast is clear. They need to get them down to America. Get them away from this authoritarian country. God bless Sunbelt and clear away. It's really uplifting to see when people not only know what is right, but act on it. Despite government orders, I'm going to start seeing if Sunbelt rental services are good in my area, and my plant will use them. Clearway has come to Vernon to get their trucks. Yep, they're like, we don't want to be a part of this. They want to load up these trucks with a bunch of dead ostriches. Not on their watch. None of these rental companies want the BLOD on their hands. It's bad for business. You bet it is. Where's the PETA mafia when you need them? Nowhere to be found. Jumping ahead here, we've got a conservative that blasts the Liberals on their oil and gas emissions cap. We got Tim Hodgson here replying, and then we're going to jump over to Danielle Smith and David Eby on two different interviews, which basically sums up there will be no pipeline.
Mr. Speaker, the grand bargain is about taking transformative steps to dramatically reduce our emissions and put new cards in Canada's hand that increase our competitiveness. That has the potential to create thousands of good-paying jobs and careers and create a world-leading clean tech ecosystem that exports our innovation around the world.
So once again, this market doesn't exist. There isn't this lineup of countries saying we want the cleanest net zero carbon oil, otherwise we won't buy it. It doesn't exist.
As I said, the Premier of Alberta said this weekend, I'm more optimistic than ever that the concerns of Albertans are being heard. I would invite the honourable member across the aisle to get with us and build Canada strong.
So Danielle Smith is remaining optimistic because she knows there's really no other choice here. It's either that or Alberta separation, whatever comes first here in this country. So not only are the Liberals the problem, so is David Eby.
Should the West Coast tanker ban be reversed as part of a grand bargain to ship decarbonized oil through the north coast of British Columbia?
Well, you know, I'll say this for Premier Smith from Alberta. She's an incredible advocate because you would never guess that there is no private proponent, there is no money, there's no project, there's no support from First Nations along the coast. In fact, nobody's talked to them, and this project is non-existent except for in the political discourse. In British Columbia, we have tens of billions of dollars in projects with private proponents that are ready to go, that need a strong federal partner. And unfortunately, because of this continuing push for this pipeline that doesn't actually exist in any meaningful way, I'm concerned around projects that we actually have that are going ahead in our province. We just announced the Silisms project from the Niska, for example, that rely on the support of coastal First Nations, and that those projects may be put in jeopardy by that push.
So basically, First Nations is more important than the rest of us, 95% of Canadians. That's what he just said there. David Eby cares more about First Nations than 95% of rest of us that pay the taxes of Canada. I should note that First Nations get tax breaks if they're building these facilities on their land, LNG or anything else, so they'll be paying less tax to Canada. Do we want to be having more businesses that pay more taxes or more businesses like First Nations ones that pay less taxes to the government? This guy's an idiot. He knows full well what he's doing here. His ideology is destroying prosperity in British Columbia. He should be thrown out of power. It's bad when you have even David Cochrane fact checks this guy. He brings up that green hydrogen wind program, all that crap on the East Coast in Nova Scotia doesn't have a proponent either, but they're setting up the framework so a proponent can come in and invest.
Is there anything that can happen in terms of a proponent coming forward and the federal government getting behind it that could change your mind on a pipeline to your coast?
Well, first of all, I want to give Premier Smith credit. She's an incredible advocate, and the way that she talks about this project, you would never guess that there is no private proponent, that it, at its current status, will rely on tens of billions of dollars in public funding.
Listen to this guy. I bet he rehearses this in the shower.
The lifting of the moratorium of the oil tanker ban off the West Coast, which is opposed by our province, but also by the First Nations, that we're counting on their support for major projects like LNG.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first First Nations Chief Premier of British Columbia, David Eby. He represents 5% of Canadians. We should just open this up so First Nations, they want to build, let them build. Let them have their facility, make their money, but the rest of Canadians deserve an opportunity at prosperity too. We can't be sacrificing Canadian prosperity for First Nation prosperity. That is what David Eby is doing here. He always talks about First Nations. First Nations comes first. First Nations is getting billions of dollars from taxpayers, Canadians, every single year. And we should be throwing away the system. It's stupid. Why is one life worth more than another? I didn't do anything to First Nations. Neither did my parents or my grandparents. Anyone involved in any of this conflict that went on back in 1850, they're all dead.
Canada and others. So, from our perspective, let's focus on the projects where there are proponents, where they're ready to go shovels in the ground. And in that case, they should be looking just a little bit further west to British Columbia, just like I hope Connor McDavid is.
Yeah, but there's no proponent for the big...
Oh, that's so fun. Let's throw in some more hockey analogies. So anyways, listen to this. David Cochrane is going to fact check David Eby now.
Yeah, but there's no proponent for the big wind project that Tim Houston is championing in Nova Scotia, but it is moving and has been endorsed as a concept by the federal government. So the pipeline has not been ruled out. The Prime Minister did tie it potentially to the carbon capture project that the Pathways Alliance is pitching. If those components fall into place, there's still the question of British Columbia's opposition to this. Are you set on this, or is your mind changeable?
So, for us, we're working with the coastal First Nations on a whole array of real projects that represent tens of billions of dollars in productivity for the Canadian economy, for the British Columbia economy, support for the federal budget, support for our provincial budget, but more importantly for families, jobs that are going to support them in regions of the province where we desperately need it. That work that we're doing with coastal First Nations requires an environment of trust. And where are we going? So to put all of that at risk for a project that is unfunded would require, at best, tens of billions of dollars of public money. And to jeopardize what is tens of billions of dollars in private money that doesn't cost taxpayers anything, that actually brings in revenues, I don't get it. And so my message is very simple.
Yeah, but First Nations get municipal discounts. They get tax breaks. They'll be saving millions of dollars on this. Is there some financial ties between David Eby and First Nations? What about Justin Trudeau and also Mark Carney and First Nations? It's time that all Canadians get treated equal. Get rid of all these payments and every Canadian gets treated equally. All right, now First Nations can go to university for free, paid for by taxpayers. And then this guy wants to roll up programs only if First Nations get to benefit from it. Something is very wrong here. Like, what is the point of paying taxes?
Focus on shovel-ready projects. Focus on projects that are in the environmental assessment process. Focus on projects with private proponents. In that case, BC would be the whole list of major projects and more. That's the scale of opportunity we see right now in the province.
This guy's an absolute loser. We had an election, he was losing, and then suddenly out of nowhere, there's a bunch of boxes of ballots being found in people's garages, down in the wine cellar, and then trunk of people's cars, and suddenly he wins the election. This guy who has an advisor who's directly connected to the United Front Work Department, the Chinese CCP, should be thrown out of power.